Hey, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for an album review. The Internet Purple Naked Ladies. The Internet is a neo-soul and experimental R&B project from two members of Odd Future, Sid the Kid and Matt Martians, aka the Jet Age of Tomorrow. These guys aren't really the flagship members of Odd Future, but that's kind of the reason I was excited to hear this thing, because, well, they're not Haji Beats or Tyler the Creator. They're gonna be different. Now, there have been two Jet Age of Tomorrow releases so far, and they've mostly consisted of instrumentals, blends of electronic and soul music, ambient music, hip-hop. And as far as Sid goes, we're really yet to hear from her in a full-length album capacity. So I did kind of go into this LP hoping I would hear something that would kind of just salvage my hope in Odd Future, because pretty much everything they've put out this year has just not done anything for me. But after numerous listens, this debut LP from the Internet does not sound all that much different from a Jet Age of Tomorrow album. Just a combination of soul, hip-hop, R&B, electronics that all feels like it was thrown together quickly in Fruity Loops. And the worst thing about this album is that it kind of sounds like things that I love, but it just stops short of being that. When I hear this album, I just hear this really spacey, synthetic world of R&B and jazz and electronics that reminds me of artists like Thundercat or The Logos, or even Subtract I might throw in there, and maybe that Erykah Badu album that came out last year. But Purple Naked Ladies does not impress me on the same levels that those artists do. I mean, just kind of take the intro track, for example, Violet Nude Women. It's kind of spacey and atmospheric, but it's also a little bland too. Once the song ends up falling into the groove later in the track, I just hear this really tinny guitar that I don't like at all. These cooing vocals that kind of get buried underneath this mess of sequenced percussion and synthesizers. It just, like I said, feels like a mess. There are all these sounds here that feel like they're in the same key, but they don't really manage to complement each other in any obvious way. Most of the beats and instrumentals on this thing just kind of passed me by, didn't really stick with me or impress me or anything like that, and some of them just felt really lazy, kind of like Fastlane and Lincoln. There were only a handful of beats on here that I really thought were great. The song Visions, for one, had a fantastic beat. There was a really clear groove going on, and I loved the chopped up guitar phrases on there. Those were a very nice touch. The instrumental just has this really kind of watery quality to it, and some great vocals from a guest vocalist on here, Coco O. But the sad thing about that track is that it's so kind of short. So short that it doesn't really kind of leave an impact on me, I guess. The song She Don't Give a Fuck had a really nice jazzy feel to the instrumental, and the song Cunt was pretty out there, had a lot of nice transitions in it, but it just didn't add up into a track that I thought was great. The instrumental on Love Song felt really tender, felt really sweet. I loved the cute little shy synth chords kind of stashed away in the background. The beats are one thing, I just kind of feel like I'm on the fence with them. Where this album doesn't really do it for me at all are with the vocals and with the lyrics. Sid's singing voice, when you measure it up to other musicians in this style of music, is not that strong. I mean, one of her guests, Coco, outsings her by a mile. Sid's voice just does not carry much of a tune. I would say on spots on here, like the introduction to the song Cocaine, her voice almost borders on just tone deafness. And on a handful of tracks here, it feels like Sid's voice is kind of fighting to be heard with some of these instrumentals too. You know, there are some spots on here where the vocals do feel decent, like on the first verse of They Say, Shangri-La, but they're just not consistently decent, you know? And as far as the lyrics go, I feel like they kind of show that this LP is kind of shallow, like many other Odd Future releases. Take the song Cocaine, for example. Definitely one of the most mindless drug songs I've ever heard in my life, to be completely honest. It doesn't even look at the upsides or the downsides of cocaine or talk about cocaine poetically. The lyrics just kind of paint this really short and vague story of Sid trying to seduce someone into doing coke, with lyrics like, just follow me, and do you want to do some cocaine? I just don't like the lyrics at all, and what's even worse is that Left Brain, who is really not one of Odd Future's best rappers, comes in and spits this really short verse. I'm high on coke, she high on coke, coast to coast, baby, float my boat. A lot of the love and lust songs on here are just as empty. You know, don't assume that just because you're hearing a love song, it's deep. There's just a lot of filler lyrics on these tracks, like, hey baby, hey girl, I'll never forget you. You know I love you. You know I care. A lot of the lyrics on here are just so corny and overused. And I have to admit, because of that, there are some tracks on here that I liked, like She Knows and Web of Me, because I couldn't really make out a lot of the lyrics. Overall, to me, this album just feels thrown together. The vocals are pretty off sometimes, the lyrics really aren't that great. A few of the tracks feature Odd Future's least interesting MCs. But this album is pretty consistent in its direction and its sound and its style. I feel like the internet knows what it wants to do, but it hasn't exactly done it yet. Yet. Kind of feeling a light 4, strong 3 to a light 4 on this LP, but what do you guys think of it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, the internet, forever.